News 4 Utah's Real Sports Live.
Tonight on Real Sports Live, the dream season comes to an end for Utah State, but the Aggies are primed to be back next March to make a deep run in the tournament. The Utah Jazz are coming off a very successful road trip, and with the next 4 games at home, how high can they climb in the standings? Jimmer is back in the NBA. This time, can he find a home in Phoenix? Plus, Real Salt Lake gave it their all in LA last night, but came up just short. And how about the BYU women's basketball team? The Cougars advance in the big dance. All that, plus the best and the worst. It's Real Sports Live, and it starts right now.
Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to Real Sports Live. I'm Dana Green. He's Wesley Ruff. And Wes loves when you talk about your bracket. So can you believe I got 14 of the 16?
Nobody cares.
I got 14 of the 16.
Nobody cares.
I thought you cared.
Pipe down, you. We're going to talk about Utah State's short stay in the big dance. But let's begin with the Utah Jazz before we get to brackets. They went back east to take on 4 less than stellar teams and are coming home with 3 victories. Back on Monday, the Jazz showed a blistering hot 54% from the floor and beat up the Washington Wizards by 21 points. Then on Wednesday, the Jazz went to Madison Square Garden. Donovan Mitchell put on a show, 30 points. As the Jazz put up 137 in a romp past the Knicks. Then the next night in Atlanta, the Jazz lost a heartbreaker to the Hawks. Mitchell's potential game-tying shot at the buzzer from the corner just missed. Jazz lost by 3. But last night in Chicago, Utah responded in a big way. 7 players scored in double figures. It's 70 points in the first half. Jazz built a 34-point lead at the half and blasted the Bulls. So, with 9 games left, 6 of them at home, the Jazz are in the 7th seed right now. Dana, how high can they climb?
Well, I have them going 7-2, maybe even 8-1 in those last 9 games. So I think the 5 seed is definitely attainable. Not sure about the 4 seed. I don't think they're going to catch Portland, who's 2.5 games ahead of them. But I was really impressed the way they came back from that Atlanta loss, because that was a heartbreaker. They really had that game. Atlanta shot the ball really well.
Yeah,
they were like 50% from three-point range. And they just destroyed the Bulls. I mean, their 3 wins this week were by 21, 21, and 31. I mean, so they're blowing out the teams they're supposed to blow out, except for Atlanta. There's something about the Hawks. Second straight year.
They're a good team. Good young team.
They're a pretty good team. Second straight year they've lost in Atlanta. But Ricky Rubio on this road trip, he shot over 57%. He had over 7 assists, only 2 turnovers a game. I've said this for a while now. The Jazz played well down the stretch and in the playoffs last year because Ricky Rubio was playing well. If he's continuing this pace of play, I think the Jazz can go 7-2, maybe 8-1.
The other players are pretty consistent, and when Ricky Rubio plays well, the Jazz win. It's just, it's as simple as that. He's the key. He's the motor that drives that team. And with the other point guards being hurt most of the year, Ricky Rubio is a key to the Jazz success in the postseason. I hate to play the what-if game, but I'm going to play the what-if game because you look back, what if the Jazz had beaten New Orleans, and what if the Jazz had beaten Atlanta? 2 games that they should have won. Then you're looking at a half game behind Portland for the 4 spot. And probably be able to catch it because they've got a much easier schedule than Portland does. It's just, those games are just so frustrating, and you can't do that. You can't play backwards. That's one thing that Jerry Sloan always preached. You have to look ahead. But, man, it's just those opportunities that you have always come back and bite you.
But sometimes it doesn't matter. They were the 5 seed. They did not have home court against Oklahoma City in the first round last year, and they still won. All you got to do, if you have to start the playoffs on the road, is win one of those first 2 like the Jazz did, and you're in great shape. So, I don't know.
But then you have to hold your home court.
But I think the matchup is more important than home court. I don't like them matching up against Oklahoma City. They're 0-4 against them this year. Russell Westbrook is a bad man, and I don't like that matchup. I don't like Houston. If they can match up against Portland, I don't even, maybe even Denver's but Denver's number 1 right now.
Number 1.
I don't want to see him at 7 playing Golden State 2. That is a bad matchup in the first round.
There really aren't very many good matchups for the Utah Jazz in the West. It's just, it's going to be tough no matter what.
How about the Clippers? How about the Clippers keep winning? They've
won 5. They've won 5 straight.
Maybe they go up to 4. Jazz get the 5. That would be a great first round matchup.
We saw that a couple of years ago too. It's a tough one. There's nobody that I'd want to play in the West, but I'm sure nobody wants to play the Jazz either. It's just going to be a bloodbath. You have to get your mind set to that. It's going to be a tough haul in the playoffs, and let's go.
Hey, you know who's coming tomorrow? Do you know who's coming tomorrow?
Jimmer!
The Jimmer's coming. Jimmer Fredette. That's right. He is back in the NBA after signing a deal with the Phoenix Suns. Jimmer made his debut last night. had a basket taken away from him on a horrible call. Come on, give it to him. That would have been his first basket. He was 0 for 1 in his first NBA game in 3 years. Jimmer, of course, has been tearing it up in China, averaged over 36 points per game this year, but decided to come back to the States for another crack in the NBA West. Jimmer's 30. This is his 5th NBA team. Is going to play against the Jazz tomorrow. Will he stick around this time?
I guess the bigger question for me is why hasn't he been able to stick around before?
Yeah.
My thought has always been, if you can put the ball in the basket, you can play in the NBA. And everybody criticizes his defense, but there are guys in the NBA who play defense as badly as Jimmer does. And if you have a good center behind you anyway, it really doesn't matter. John Stockton wasn't a great defensive player. He has the all-time record in steals, but he kind of cheated in the passing lanes. But he had Mark Eaton standing behind him. And now the Jazz with Rudy Gobert, and they can kind of cheat.
But you look at the defense playing against Jimmer. He's scoring 36 points a game, not against great defenders. The NBA has some terrific perimeter defenders. He's a shooting guard at, what, 6'2"? He's not going to get open shots like he did in China.
Yeah, again, though, but he can score, and he's a streak shooter. And if I'm an NBA general manager, I would have had Jimmer on my team, and he would be one of the first guys, and he would have been one of the first guys off the bench, and give him a couple of shots. And if he's hot, ride him, and if he's not, get him out. He's a streak shooter.
I think Phoenix is a good fit. I think Igor Kokoskov has worked really well with guards, really well with Donovan Mitchell last year when he was with the Jazz, assistant coach. I think being with Devin Booker, Josh Jackson, guys like that. This is an up-and-coming team. And this is basically a 10-game tryout.
Sure.
If they like what they see, they're going to bring him back next year. But it's going to, you know what's interesting? What's the reception going to be like for him tomorrow? Because when he was with the Kings, when he, right out of BYU, a lot of Utes fans go to Jazz games. He would get booed. I think people in Salt Lake and Utah in general has softened on Jimmer, maybe feel sorry for him a little bit, and want him to stick around in the NBA. I think he gets a good reception.
Yeah, it's funny because the Jazz fans that are Utah fans always, still hate BYU players, no matter how good of a guy they are, how good of a player, they still hate them. And I hope that has softened, and I hope Jimmer gets to play. He only played 4 minutes last night.
Yeah, well, that was his first game.
Exactly. He's just back from China. His team.
Why not see what they got? I think he'll get some minutes.
Yeah, hopefully he will, and he's used to playing in, here in the state of Utah, so hopefully he'll put up some shots and make a couple.
Jimmer. I'm rooting for him.
And the Jazz hopefully win.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the big dance. Utah State Aggies making their first appearance in 8 years. It did not last long.
No.
The 8-seeded Aggies got eliminated by 9-seeded Washington Huskies 78-61 on Friday. Craig Smith's team got off to a pretty good start, but they had trouble containing big Noah Dickerson, who had 14 points, 9 rebounds in the first half alone. Now, the name of this game, turnovers. Utah State committed 21 of them, 11 in the first half, 10 more in the second half. That tenacious Washington zone just overwhelmed the Aggies. They weren't ready for it. And they held leading scorer Sam Merrill to just 10 points all in the second half. But still, the Aggies rallied in that second half to get within one with 10 minutes to play. But Washington pulled away down the stretch. Dana, you were there sitting in your plush courtside seat. Saw you on television several times.
It was plush.
Were you surprised the Aggies struggled as much as they did against the Huskies?
I did. I was surprised a little bit because they know what Washington does. But like they said afterwards, you can practice against that zone. You know where they're going to be, but not with the players that Washington has. They are long. They are athletic. They just had not seen a defense like that all year long, and that's one of the problems of playing in the Mountain West. I mean, there's some really good teams at the top, but they don't play defense like Washington or even Oregon plays. Oregon plays some really good defense. I was surprised that Sam Merrill was taken out of the game in the first half, really. I know he had 2 fouls, but he wasn't even really looking for a shot. Washington did a great job, just taking him out. And yet, despite that, despite Neemias Queta missing some bunnies, I mean, he missed a bunch of layups that he normally makes, they were still within one with 10 minutes left. Well, it doesn't diminish at all what Utah State has done this season. Put him back on the map. Craig Smith has just done an unbelievable job in Logan.
Coach agree.
And look at what's set up for next year. They're all coming back except for Quinn Taylor and Dwayne Brown. Hopefully Neemias Queta comes back. I asked him after the game about his NBA prospects. He said, he's not thinking about it. I think he comes back for at least another year.
I don't think he's ready for the NBA right now. I watched that Washington zone on television, not at courtside like you. And it looked like at times they were running a 3-2 instead of a 2-3, or sometimes like a 4-1. They had a lot of guys out on the perimeter. And Merrill was confused. The whole Utah State offense was confused, and it took them until the half before they could figure out where to start attacking. And once they did, they got some shots.
But they missed some easy ones down low. If Keita makes those shots, maybe they do adjust and freeze up the perimeter a little bit.
Yeah, the missed shots, turnovers. I mean, balls going through hands on passes, stuff that Utah State is usually good at. But I think they were, by the time the second half rolled around, they were kind of snake bit by that defense.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that shot there got them within one.
Got within one.
Yeah, you could feel the momentum. But, boy, Washington, I mean, they're a good team. They're a great defensive team.
Now, one of the questions was, did the stage get to them? Because none of these guys had ever been to the big dance before. Merrill said no. He said we got off to a pretty good start. It was 5-0. Yeah. We weren't intimidated. We didn't feel the pressure. I think the Washington defense had a lot more to do with it than the spectacle of the big dance.
It was a game of runs in the first half. I mean, it was like 11-5. Then Washington went on a 9-0 run, and then Utah State came back and went on a run and took the lead for the last time. And then here comes Washington again. So it was back and forth. And then again, they couldn't penetrate that zone, and they were. They had a lot of guys out on the top where Utah State likes to shoot from.
They had 24 turnovers against New Mexico in the Mountain West tournament. Got away with it. Against Washington, 21 turnovers. You can't get away with it. But the future is bright. I think they'll be back. I think they're going to be a dark horse, darling, Sweet 16 contender next year if they all come back.
I'm looking forward to that.
We do still have one local team left in the tournament. We're talking about the BYU women's basketball team. Cougars held off Auburn yesterday to move on to the second round tomorrow, where they're going to take on second-seeded Stanford in Stanford. Brenna Chase had 19 points, while Shaylee Gonzalez added 17. The BYU defense was the story of this one. They held Auburn to just 32% shooting. Now, this is BYU's first NCAA tournament win since 2014 when they made it to the Sweet 16. Wes, can they pull off the shocker against the host team Stanford tomorrow night and get back to the Sweet 16 for just the third time ever?
The short answer, no.
No?
No.
Come on.
No, Stanford is they're number 6 in the country.
Yeah.
They're 2 seed in this tournament, and there's a reason why they're number 6 in the country.
Utah beat them. The Utes knocked them off.
Yeah, but it's playing Stanford at Stanford.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wish it was on a neutral court.
Exactly. They've got one of the best players in the country, their guard Smith. She is so good and so talented, and the team is just good. And they've always been. I mean, like Jeff Judkins said in our in the sports earlier, just about 10-15 minutes ago, he said that you think of women's college basketball, and Stanford's one of those teams that comes to mind. Tennessee, Connecticut, Baylor, and Stanford, because they're always there.
Right.
And he said he watched film from them from December and watched film from them now. They're doing the exact same thing they did back in December. They're just doing it better.
They're just saying,
doing it better.
And win or lose, this has been a great season for this team. I mean, they're 26-6, won the West Coast Conference tournament title. This is just the 4th time in history they've gotten out of the first round. So great job by Jeff Judkins. If they can play defense like they did against Auburn and stay in the game in that 4th quarter, anything can happen.
Here's the problem that happened yesterday. BYU was up by 15 in the 4th quarter, and then Auburn's defense started turning the ball over, and BYU, I mean, it got close, like down to like a bucket, I think.
Right.
And Stanford's defense is not as tenacious as Auburn's defense.
But they can score.
But they can score, and they are just a really good team. So it's 9 o'clock tomorrow night up in Stanford's home court, which is not fair. All right, Real Salt Lake played valiantly last night against LAFC, but came away with a heartbreaking 2-1 loss. Mike Petke was down 5 players because of international call-ups and red card suspensions. And they almost beat one of the best teams in Major League Soccer. Bofo Saucedo got taken down in the box, resulted in a penalty kick. Dimer Kralak buried it, give the RSL 1-0 lead. But just 5 minutes later, Diego Rossi found the back of the net to tie the game up at 1 at the half. Controversial non-call there. It stayed that way until the 84th minute when Justin Portillo, just in the game for Real, was handed a straight red card for hitting an LAFC player in the neck. So Real had to go the rest of the way, a man down. And in stoppage time, 2 minutes into stoppage time, Walker Zimmerman blasted a game winner that bounced off an RSL player. Dana, tough break for Real.
Yeah, it really was. And Mike Petke, I mean, he had nothing but great things to say about his team afterwards. I mean, down 5 guys. First time in MLS history that a team has played 6 homegrown players. That's a lot of young guys against one of the better teams, one of the favorites to win MLS Cup this year. And that was a great shot by Zimmerman. It was deflected. I'm just not happy with that straight red. I think it should should have been a yellow. Definitely deserving of a yellow. Justin Portillo. I'm right here coming at him at midfield. It wasn't malicious. And the guy did flop a little bit. I mean, it's soccer. It's going to happen every once in a while.
Soccer?
Right. But right there, I don't think that's a straight red. I really don't. And the ref was trailing the play, not in position to make the call. Give it a yellow. Don't make a decision like that that's going to affect the game as majorly as it did. And Zimmerman took advantage of it. I mean, that was a fantastic shot. Nothing Armando could do. But I agree with Petke. I think he's got to be proud of his team. After 4 games, 3 of them on the road, they're 1-2-1. They played well enough to get a result yesterday. Maybe go 1-1-2. They're 1-2-1, but 2 of the next 3 at home. So I think RSL's in good shape. They're going to get some guys back.
This is so disappointing about Major League Soccer is that their schedule is built around the rest of the world schedule, and so there's a lot of call-ups.
Right.
And for fans, pay money to see the best players in Major League Soccer, and then you don't get to see them because they're out of town on call-ups. 3 of them, for 3 guys called up, including maybe arguably their best player. Rusnak was there, and Corey Baird was out, and Johnson call-ups, and then we had the straight red cards. We're going to have another one coming up in this next game, but they're back home, and they're trying to make Rio Tinto Stadium a fortress again.
Right.
They need to win.
They look
at
good
home
against Vancouver in their home opener.
And I was surprised in the post-game comments because Mike Petke, you just expected him to go off.
Right, I thought he was going to go off on the refs because I don't think that was a very controversial
It could have been offsides on LAFC's first goal.
Right.
It shouldn't have been offsides.
Shouldn't have been
offsides, on Saucedo's goal, and then that call. But he didn't say anything about it. He just talked about how proud he was of his team, how they were underdogs, nobody gave them a chance, and they hung in there for 92 minutes.
Maybe it's a new Mike Petke, we're saying.
Maybe. But yeah, and his team did play well. He's absolutely right. I just expected him to.
Like that he focused on that first. I really like
positive. Yep. All right, we have to take a break here on Real Sports Live.
But coming up, we're going to sit down with a man that has forgotten more about basketball than we'll ever know. It's Joe Cravens. He talks about March Madness when we come back.
The Kostopoulos Dream Foundation does so much that's good for Utah. Join me at Camp K's largest fundraiser of the year, the Send a Kid to Camp Gala on Friday, April 12th at the City Creek Marriott. Proceeds benefit Camp K's summer camp and year-round programs. Please visit campk.org.
How do you feel when you look in the mirror?
I felt heavy and I looked heavy. It's hard sometimes to believe that's me.
Do you wish you could have slimmer hips, thighs, and a flat stomach? Now you can. America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist, Sonobello, has made it easier and more affordable than ever to get the body you've always wanted. Using advanced microlaser technology, our board-certified plastic surgeons remove hard-to-lose fat in as little as 1 day.
I look in mirrors now and I'm like, dang, that girl looks good.
For your free no-obligation consultation, call 888-450-8684 and get $250 towards looking your very best.
The best investment you can make is in yourself. 100%. I wish I would have done it sooner.
Call now and get $250 off. Payment plans are available. Don't wait one more day. For a free consultation, call 888-450-8684 now.
Ever look at your paycheck and think, there's got to be a better way? Well, here's some news. There is, and I can show it to you. I'm Paula Sagan, star of A&E's hit TV show Flip This House. My brother and I have taught thousands of people how to start making money in real estate. Now it's your turn. Next week, we're conducting a free 2-hour educational workshop right here in your area, where you'll learn some of my secrets, like how to start flipping homes for profit in your spare time, using other people's money, and how to get started putting money in your pocket every month by investing in income properties. Real estate is a powerful tool that has made millions of people wealthy, but you can't start making your first dollar until you take your first step. Come to my free workshop and take advantage of this amazing opportunity. It could mean a lifetime of financial security.
To get 2 free tickets to Paul's workshop, text your 5-digit zip code to 54,000. Seating is extremely limited, so text your 5-digit zip code to 54,000. Text in the next 10 minutes, and you'll also reserve a free copy of Paul's Money for Deals guide. Just text your zip code to 54,000.
I'm living on the air on MeTV.
Cincinnati?
On Cincinnati, WKRP.
I'm serious, Johnny.
So am I.
We're on WKRP in Cincinnati.
Weeknights at 8:30 on MeTV 4.2 Utah.
Earn 1.5% cash back on everything you buy with Freedom Unlimited.
Welcome back to Real Sports Live. We are in the thick of March Madness right now.
Man, who better to talk about the college basketball world than this guy, broadcaster and former Weber State head coach Joe Cravens. Joe, you were at Weber for 7 years back in the day, right?
That's right, Dan. Yeah, before that, 2 years as Ronna Beglin's assistant before I took over then.
Also coached at the University of Utah as well.
I was the interim coach there and worked for 3 years with Rick Majerus, and I was the head coach at Idaho for 3 years. I think I'm the only coach in the 56 year of the Big Sky to coach 2 different schools.
Oh, nice.
All right, so he passed the audition. We'll let him continue.
And you took an undefeated team to the NCAA tournament, undefeated team in the conference.
We did. 2003, led by Jermaine Boyette. We had a 17-game winning streak. We're one of only 2 teams in the history of the Big Sky to go undefeated and get to the NCAA.
That's just good coaching right there.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the players, right?
Don't let Jermaine Boyette or any of those kids hear that. Yeah.
Well, let's start with some of the local teams. Utah State obviously just finished their short NCAA tournament run, but what a turnaround to go from, what were they, 14-17 2 years ago to now 28-6 going into it. What a job by Craig Smith.
Well, picked 9th in their league, Dane. Unbelievable. I think Craig Smith deserves a lot of attention or a lot of thought to be the national coach of the year, not just the Mountain West. I don't think he'll get it because it's not a Power 5 school and he's not high enough profile, but to see, I had their game down at the Beehive Classic in December to see where they went from there to how they finished the season. It was an unbelievable run and just a joy to watch it. Real old school basketball. They really guarded you, really shared the ball. It was, and to watch Sam Merrill is a real treat as well.
They've got Merrill and most of their players coming back, so the future's bright for the Aggies.
They lose one starter in the kid Quinn Taylor, who was a real key to their success. He's what I call a star role player. He really made them go. When Abel Porter took over as their point guard, they got better. Their bench got better. The 3 Bs, Brito, Brown, and
Bean.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
They got better. And their team got better. It was just really interesting to watch them get better and better and better. And Craig Smith did a wonderful job. And let's give just a little bit of credit to Tim Duryea, who put that team together, with the exception of the big center from Portugal, Keita. Remember, they won 2 games in the tournament, in the Mountain West Conference tournament last year. They kind of, I think, started their momentum a little bit into this season.
You think they could be a Sweet 16 team next year with all these guys coming back?
Well, as I was watching their game yesterday against a very talented Washington team, and people forget they won the regular season, very talented Washington team, but I saw a Utah State team that their first NCAA appearance, they've got 4 starters back. I think that experience will help them next year if they can get back.
Utah, BYU both had down seasons. Well, they've been down the last couple of years. Your thoughts on that? Can they improve? Will it get better for Utah basketball?
Oh, I think so. I think everybody goes through cycles. Yeah, I think it takes a little while in this day and age with the one and dones. I think it is harder to be consistently good each year. And as I always say, and I've used this a lot in my broadcasts, administrators and fans don't mind you rebuilding as long as you have it done by late December sometime, you know. About 5 or 6 games to rebuild and then you get going. And both of them were in a little bit of a transition. Great coaches, Larry Kostoviak and Dave Rose, not just good coaches but good people and very historic programs. So they won't be out of the postseason for very long.
A lot of people are wondering if maybe Dave Rose's time is come and gone. I mean, he's been there 14 years. I think he's led 8 NCAA tournament appearances, but it's been 4 years since he's been there. What do you think? Do you think he still has a future there at BYU?
Well, Dave is a product of his own success. He took him to a new level, and I think Randy Ray's going through that a little bit at Weber State. Again, he set the bar so high with their past success that anything less than that now, people are turning their noses up at. But I'm telling you, they won't find as good a coach as Dave Rose. They may change the picture on the posters and a new guy there. Dave Rose is a terrific basketball coach. I have nothing but the utmost respect for what he has done at BYU and what kind of person he is.
I want to talk about your broadcasting career because you are awesome. First of all, as a broadcaster,
nobody like him.
Just that down-home common sense. Your comments are great. How did you see yourself getting into broadcasting? How did that work out for you?
Well, Wesley, it's a story much like probably your guys. I had a lot of help along the way. Timing was everything. When my coaching career ended up at Weber State. A guy from UNLV, a friend of mine called and said, have you ever thought about getting into broadcasting? They were just getting ready to start the old Mountain Network. And it kind of gained some momentum with some of the coaches in the league, and then the Hall of Famer Steve Fisher, who was at San Diego State, was the head of the TV committee, and he pushed it over the top. And all of a sudden, they gave me a tryout package, as they call it. But I think I did 4 or 5 games just to see how I'd do. And at the end of those, you know, I hadn't broken any equipment or made anybody too mad, you know, too mad that is. And then they gave me another 4 or 5 games, and then a little more. It took me through that first season, and then I was with them for 5 more years and been able to survive. When they went under, I was with the Pac-12 network for a year, and then picked up by Root, which is now AT&T. And you know, I've done some other work for other people, but it's terrific. I've been very fortunate to hang on.
And it's been 13 years, right, as a broadcaster. Let me ask you this. What's more stressful, broadcasting or coaching? And what's easier, I guess?
You got to be kidding me. I'm telling you.
I knew the answer. I just wanted to hear it from you.
I told a group of referees, which is interesting, you know, the adversarial relationship between coaches and referees. Now all those guys are my best friends on TV, you know, and I take care of them, too, by the way,
you don't
on
rip on them
TV.
too harshly,
but if I'd known how much fun broadcasting was and how not stressful it is, I would ask him to fire me 10 years earlier. So it's terrific. You get all the pleasure and none of the pain. That's what it amounts to.
Quickly, who do you think is going to win the NCAA tournament?
I'm going with Michigan. How about that? Out in left field. You know, being a Big Ten guy, I'm going to kind of, you know, I'm going to paw the ACC and go with the Big Ten team.
How tough is that for you? Because you're from Indiana.
I know.
Well, the Hoosiers aren't in it if you haven't seen this year.
I like that he's not picking Duke, so that's good. Coach, thank you so much
for stopping by.
We're going to take a quick time out here on Real Sports Live. Coming up, we're going to go inside the locker rooms for this week's edition of Bites of the Week. Stick around.
GTU weekday mornings at 9 a.m. It's the Les Schwab Spring Tire Sale. Save up to $200 on the Open Country All-Terrain 2, which has been one of our best sellers. Or get great savings on our popular Open Country MT tires. Now you can book an appointment at leschwab.com.
The key to winning the battle against those spring and summer weeds is having pre-emergent fertilizer down early in the spring. IFA's Step 1 fertilizer is formulated locally for the Intermountain West. The pre-emergent ensures that you won't grow new weeds throughout the season. Step 1 will give you a deep green lawn. Come in today and let our experts help you get a great-looking lawn.
Apply IFA Step 1 fertilizer with crabgrass and spurt preventer now. IFA Country Stores, helping to grow the things you love.
Everyone loves a great success story. ABC4 salutes Utah businesses making a difference. Be watching Sunday nights at 10 for Utah Success Stories, made possible by the generous support of Finance Peak.
When's the best time to save big on a new RV? When it's 2019, and Ray City RV has huge savings on over 30 remaining 2018 models. Like our 2018 Sundance family trailers. Save up to $22,000. Plus, we have all the top brand 2019 models, fresh from the factory. We have over 250 RVs to choose from, and we love trade-ins, so bring yours in and we'll give you top dollar. Don't miss out on these amazing deals. Visit Ray City RV today.
If you're worried about spoiling your dinner with any of our dollar sliders from 2 to 5 p.m. at Arby's, just do what I do. Order a $1 milkshake to take your mind off it.
Arby's, we have the meat.
4 sandwiches.
During the Les Schwab Spring Tire Sale, save up to $200 on a set of some of our highest-rated tires. With the warranty we've stood behind for 65 years at no extra charge. Book your appointment today at leschwab.com. You're watching ABC4 Utah's Real Sports Live.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It was quite a busy week for local sports, which means we had a lot of post-game interviews to sort through.
That's right, and Jazz forward Kyle Korver, you know, he celebrated his 38th birthday this week. Happy birthday, Kyle. But Quinn Snyder is not worried about Korver's age, and his comments kick off this week's edition of Bites of the Week.
It's hard to believe he's 38. He's just got so much pride in how he plays, and he's a fun guy to coach because he can shoot. So he shoot like that, and at his, I don't think of him as 38. I just think of him as a really good player that takes care of himself and trains, and he's kept himself in great shape, and I'm not concerned with how old he. Maybe if he gets to be 48, we'll start to worry about him.
It's a strange stat of the night. 13 players played, everyone scored. It tells you a lot about this team.
It shows who we are. Unselfish basketball team, continuing to find ways to find the open man. And I think that tonight, nights like tonight, really show that.
Before I let you go, what kind of pizza?
Just cheese.
Just cheese?
Just cheese.
Sorry to interrupt you, but go at it. That's Donovan Mitchell. Thanks.
It just has been one of those years where these guys have made it exciting. Of course, they had to do it today. That's why I don't have any hair, because of what those guys do. But I'm just so happy for them, because they could have got down and got upset with each other, but they didn't. They bounced back, and that's what they've done really all year.
We just kind of had to get used to playing against their pressure and kind of how they played. We don't play a lot of teams with their quickness and their size and rebounding, and so I think we kind of just had to adjust to it, and once we got there, we were all right from there on out.
I think at halftime we came in and we talked about where our openings were going to be in the press and in our offenses, and we just executed 100% right when we came out. We ran a couple plays that Judd drew up that we executed on, and we just started pushing in their press and hitting the open gaps, and it really helped.
Yeah, it's tough. We did a lot of good work, and then just a bit of luck went their way today, and not ours. But I'm proud of the guys. I think everybody put in an honest, hard-working shift. It was a good outing, and we'll get better from it.
We did some very good things tonight. We did some really good things, and my message to the guys after the game is this is a special team we played, very special team. And to have 4 or 5 of our starters missing, to put in a performance like that was special.
We've been in these positions before throughout the year, but unfortunately, credit to those guys for making plays down the stretch, and unfortunately, we're disappointed, but we're going to be back.
I just wish every coach could coach a team like this. It's just an amazing, amazing group.
We came here and nobody believed in us, and we ended up seeded 8, and this is just the beginning.
It really is just the beginning for the Aggies.
I
believe they will win many times next year. We have to take another quick break here on Real Sports Live.
Yes, but coming up, it's the reason television was invented in the first place.
It is?
It's another exciting edition of the best and the worst, and it's coming up next.
Hair care for the ABC4 News team provided by Cassie Dean.
It's easy to replace your tub or shower when you choose Bath Fitter. Hi, I'm Bill Booman.
And I'm Rick Booman from Bath Fitter.
From Logan to St. George, we serve all of Utah. Call now for your free in-home estimate and receive up to $450 off. It's better with Bath Fitter.
Performance Ford Lincoln and Bountiful in a battle for your smile. The stakes have never been higher because it's Ford Truck Month. Well, we don't have to yell during Ford Truck Month because we know our prices are hard to beat. But it's really our Ford truck selection that'll bring you to Bountiful. Super Duties, Raptors, and the only authorized Roush dealer within 300 miles. A Ford truck buying experience, a little bit of smile on your face. Performance Ford Lincoln Bountiful.
I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. And I want it now.
With over 95,000 restaurants nationwide on the Grubhub app, if you want it all, you can get it all. Grubhub. Restaurants you love, delivered.
Do you have some free time? PRA is currently seeking healthy men and women ages 18 to 55 to participate in a clinical research study. Volunteers must be available for 1 stay of 21 nights and 1 follow-up phone call. Qualified participants may receive compensation up to $5,475. Call PRA at 801-719-5570 or visit us online at prastudies.com.
Health sciences.
And with great deals on all these Toyotas, you can make plans to go anywhere.
Anywhere.
Hello?
Right now, lease a new 2019 Camry for just $249 per month or get $1,000 cash back on a new Camry. For great deals on other Toyotas, visit Toyota.com.
Ready, set, go get your Toyota today.
Toyota, let's go places.
It's easy to replace your tub or shower when you choose Bath Fitter. Hi, I'm Bill Booman.
And I'm Rick Booman from Bath Fitter.
From Logan to St. George, we serve all of Utah. Call now for your free in-home estimate and receive up to $450 off. It's better with Bath Fitter.
With all the madness going on this month, sometimes you just need to take a break. The best thing to do, IMO, is to watch the wild and the wacky plays from the past 7 days, the bloopers and the blunders. Consider this a public service for you, the viewer, because here it is, the best and the worst. We start off with great dunk by Donovan Mitchell. Oh my. The stop and go and the hammer. Gary Harris of Denver needs some work on his dunk. Yeah, he ricocheted that thing all the way out to the half-court line. Slams off the back of the iron. Kelly Oubre of the Suns tries to get fancy, but looks bad. Important tip here, kids. If you're going to show off, make the dunk. And then he missed another dunk later in the week. Same guy. Best pass, this was pretty tasty. The no-look, behind-the-back, whip-around pass for the assist. Nice. Derek Favors with the pass. That hits the referee. Ooh, he threw it over the head of Korver, and it bonked the official. Josh Hart of the Lakers passes this thing over the top of the backboard. Oops. This guy passed to his teammate, but apparently he didn't want it. Then he tried to save it. It's too late. Ball was coming at him. He leaned back and then went, oh, yeah, I probably should get that. But no avail. The grounder hits the pitcher in the leg, but the pitcher tracks it down, gets it and flips it with his glove over to first in time for the out. This guy makes the sliding catch, gets his glove just under the ball at the last possible second. Nice form. This guy catches and then slides. Ooh, I like that finish. Bad week for soccer keepers. This guy never saw the defender there, who swoops in and scores. He kicks it before the keeper can react, and the goalie just pounds the ground in disgust. This keeper was passing the ball, tried to stop, but too late, and the result, a goal. The ball slips out of his hands. The other team's player just chips it over his head, and goal. Back to basketball. This guy tries to save it, crashes over the banner sign. Wow, watch this thing again, though, because he had to jump over a photographer, and the camera gets damaged. The photographer was like, dude, this thing used to be attached. It used to go right here. Scott of the 76ers dives into the crowd, and while he's down there, he takes a sip of a drink, and then he posted about it. Jack, straight, no eyes. Shout out to her. Nice. Williams of LSU goes after the loose ball, crashes into the press area, pulled out some wires there, and the best part was, watch the guy's Coke cup. Spills once, twice, and then a third time. Just explodes everywhere and soaked Mr. Williams' jersey. Yikes. And finally, at the Valspar Championship Golf event in Tampa today, a bird snags a fish out of the pond. It's a big fish, and it slips out, lands on the ground. Well, a fan jumps the ropes, grabs the fish, and runs it over to the pond and throws him back in. This guy is a hero to fish everywhere. And he gets high fives from the other golf fans, although I'm pretty sure his hands smelled like fish. But he's a hero, and he made it onto this week's edition of The Best and the
That's
Worst.
the longest catch and release I've ever seen. Fish is like,
He's probably
little
dead.
help
Yeah,
over
where
here.
were you like 5 minutes ago?
We're almost out of time here on Real Sports Live, but we still got a few things we want to share with you. It's our parting shots, and they're coming up next.
We all know how it can be to go to the wrong place for car repair.
And lights on again. Can you believe this? Unbelievable.
Free local towing for major repairs over $500 at your local AA MCO.
Insurance companies can't be all that bad, can they?
What if I told you that after a serious injury, the insurance company will give you the runaround and treat you and your family like just another number?
Is that true?
That's true.
So they're not like a good neighbor.
Insurance companies do a great job of pretending to be on your side, but after a serious injury, they'll do whatever they can to avoid paying you the money you need and deserve. Call Siegfried and Jensen today.
I want it all.
Donuts. Miss
Niçoise salad?
Delivering from over 95,000 restaurants nationwide. If you want it all, you can get it all. Grubhub. Restaurants you love delivered.
This time of year, everybody talks about tax shelters. And if you need one, we've got it. We've got lots of tax shelters. Don't put off the new shed again this year. Use the refund check for a great tax shelter.
I have investigated and trust A-Shed. They are Gephardt approved.
I'm Donovan Mitchell, guard for the Utah Jazz.
I'm Terry Fleck, guard for Lindbergh Plumbing.
Deep three, no problem. I can do this all day. I go to the pros at University of Utah Health.
Hey, I go to U of U Health. I get the same care as the Utah Jazz. I knew we had something in common. Really? I'm right here.
Wait, dealership just fixed this transmission.
We all know how it can be to go to the wrong place for transmission repair.
Just a shift solenoid.
Solenoid.
Get no credit needed financing, only a AA MCO.
Now, parting shots brought to you by Doug Smith Subaru.
Time now for parting shots, and once again, Wes, in case you didn't hear, I picked 14 out of the 16 in my bracket. Let me tell you who I missed. I missed Maryland. Okay, you can go first.
Thank you very much. Before we say goodbye, I want to talk about a couple of guys who did say goodbye this week. Former Highland High star Haloti Ngata, an all-pro defensive lineman in the NFL, announced his retirement from football, and he did it with a Twitter post from the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Ngata was a two-time first-team All-Pro and a second-team selection 2 other times, was one of the most dominating defensive linemen in the league during his heyday. But after 13 years, he's calling it quits, going out on top, as it were. And former Utah Jazz center Al Jefferson also announced his retirement from the NBA. Jefferson played 14 years in the league, 5 of those with the Utah Jazz. He was one of the most consistent performers. He averaged 18.5 points and 9.5 rebounds per contest with the Jazz. And I remember Jazz fans telling me the team should trade Jefferson and get somebody better. And I always said, like who? The guys who average 20 points and 10 rebounds per game are hard to find, and we had one. Now, some fans didn't like Jefferson, but Derek Favors said Jefferson was one of the best people he ever had been around. He said Jefferson worked hard, enjoyed the moment, and had fun. Now, both of these guys were all-stars and had long careers. The best you can hope for is to go out on your own terms, and they are. So enjoy your retirement, fellas. You've earned it.
My parting shot is on an incredible two-sport athlete at BYU. Jarrin Hall is not only vying for the backup quarterback job on the football team, he's also playing baseball for the Cougars. Hall is a former Maple Mountain High School star, looked really good in yesterday's scrimmage. Hall led 4 touchdown drives. Now, earlier this week, after a BYU football practice, Hall drove down to UVU, got to the baseball game in the 3rd inning, and came on and had the game-winning RBI in the top of the 10th. How awesome is that? Shades of Danny Ainge, the former Boston Celtic great, who actually played in the majors with the Toronto Blue Jays while still in college at BYU. But to play football and baseball is perhaps even more amazing. It's fun to marvel at athletes like Jarrin Hall and Heisman winner Kyler Murray, who was a first-round draft pick of the Oakland A's. And I really like that both head coaches, Kalani Sitake and Mike Littlewood, are allowing Hall to play both sports. Each of them could have said, hey, you got to pick one. But even with the increased risk of injury, they know the best athlete is a well-rounded athlete, and Jarrin Hall is definitely that.
Yeah, he's really, really good, son.
I couldn't even play one sport.
Well, coaches told me, don't pick a sport.
No.
Get out of sports.
Yeah, get out of the basketball team. You're done. You're done. Don't forget to go to abc4.com, download the podcast, Real Sports Live.
It's good stuff. We'll be back here next week with another fabulous edition of RSL.
PRA helps